The drama with UNC football. I mean, how closely have you been following that? I mean, obviously, Bill Belichick's GM, Michael Lombardi, his right-hand man, was put on administrative leave. And it's been a little bit of a mess since Belichick took over at UNC for reasons beyond just the stuff with Lombardi. But, what are your thoughts on all of that nonsense?
Yeah, I think it's been hard to not follow this program just because of how much drama has surrounded it since Bill Belichick has been named the head coach. Year one, it was all of this offseason drama with his girlfriend, Jordan Hudson. And now it's the amount of money being given to him, being given to Lombardi. And it just seems like all of this money is being spent on, quite frankly, incompetence, whether it's Bill Belichick's 4-8 record on the football field, and we'll see if he can improve that whatsoever this year. But now to have this guy beside him who is not only propping up the North Carolina program, I think, far more than it should be propped up, but how much does the common denominator fall back on, hey, we made a really big mistake with putting in Bill Belichick because it seems that no one in his circle can stay out of the headlines when he was supposed to be the headline maker here for what he's doing to our football program.
100%. And it's been a disaster since he got there. You mentioned the fact that, first of all, they haven't won many games, but also, I mean, all of the drama with his girlfriend, Bill Belichick's girlfriend, Jordan Hudson, was ridiculous. And it's funny because when he was the Patriots coach, he was so big on no distractions. And if he'd ever had a Patriots player and a girlfriend who was becoming that much of a distraction, he would have buried the guy. But he's not practicing what he preaches. And what was crazy to me was also the way that she was actually involved in his program and was like micromanaging members of the athletic communication staff at UNC. I mean, despite the fact that she has no experience working in that industry and pretty much no work experience in any industry whatsoever. She's like just out of college. Her experience includes like cheerleading and being a tattoo artist. I'm not even making that up. So like, I can't even imagine like if someone I worked with had a significant other who'd never worked in my profession, who wasn't employed by the place we were employed and was micromanaging me on how to do my job. I would have a full blown temper tantrum. And now this stuff with Michael Lombardi. I mean, also, it hasn't just been a mess at UNC, but it's been a mess ever since pretty much his final 2 years with the Patriots were a disaster as well. There was the year that he brought in Matt Patricia and Joe Judge to be the offensive coordinators, despite having no experience in that role, just because they were his buddies. And that was when his career started to go downhill. They had a bad year that year. They had an even worse year the following year, and he hasn't been able to find a job in the NFL since. I mean, what do you think? I kind of got the impression that Belichick was a guy where he got to a certain point where he had so much success, he just started winging it, thought he could do whatever he wanted. I mean, what are your thoughts on kind of Belichick's downfall as a whole?
I think it's just riding off of kind of the success of his own story for what it's been throughout his career. This is a guy we described as untouchable in the NFL world, given how many Super Bowls he's won, how many regular season wins he put up with New England. And yes, there was a debate throughout that time of how much is this on Tom Brady, how much of this is on Bill Belichick. And now that narrative, I think, is really starting to shift given what he's done post NFL. And when you talk about kind of bringing in his own buddies, kind of this mentality that what has worked before will always work. If I just have people that trust in me and I trust in them, this is going to lead to success no matter what level of football we're at, no matter what era of football we're in. And sports just simply don't work that way. A great example in the Boston area as well was the Boston Bruins. How much of that ownership group, that GM, head coaching group with Cam Neely, etc., was kind of viewed by a lot of fans as an old boys club, and the Bruins were falling far short of expectations in a lot of the past 5 years. And it seems that they've sort of started to correct the course there and kind of saying, all right, we need to maybe invest in some other voices outside of these two guys. And I think that's going to lead the Bruins to a lot more in the future. But with a college program, I think it's a lot more difficult when you have so much pressure from alumni to do it this way. And I think in college athletics, you can get stuck, whether it's by committee or by what the coaches do, of just not evolving with either how athletics are shifting, how voices that need to be heard are really kind of coming up in the college football world. And I think Bill Belichick has consistently miscalculated in that regard.
You're 100% right. I mean, also the thing you mentioned about how, him thinking because something worked at a certain point in time, it'll always work. That is true. As a head coach in any sport, you have to evolve. It almost reminds me of, this is a much lower level of sports, but I played Division III college baseball back in the day, and my entire coaching staff was old, and they coached the game the exact way it was coached when they were playing college baseball themselves. And like our youngest assistant coach was like 60. And so it's like with the way they were coaching wasn't really relevant to the current game. And they were very stubborn about not changing their ways. And it's like, okay, like this coaching style may have worked when you were coaching Abraham Lincoln back in the day, but now it's 2015. That was when I was playing college baseball. That shit doesn't fly anymore. And so, yeah, I mean, and some people, not just in sports, in a lot of parts of life, kind of get set in their ways and are uncomfortable with anything new. And we'll see what happens. I mean, if UNC has another bad season, I think Belichick is probably fired there and done coaching football. I mean, there's no way he went to UNC because he couldn't get a new job in the NFL. And not only could he not get a new job in the NFL, he couldn't even get a job with an elite college team because UNC is a middle of the pack college team. They're not an elite college team. So at this point, if he can't even hold down a job with a middle of the pack college team, he's basically done, and he's going to retire. And I think no matter how ugly it ends, his legacy still should stand as it is. His overall resume speaks for itself. I still think it's ridiculous that he wasn't a first ballot Hall of Famer. And I think no matter what, he'll still go down as the best coach in the history of the game. But yeah, it's getting ugly. It's certainly getting ugly with UNC football. But also, there's so many different topics we can get into with, sports and also pop culture, but we obviously have to keep our pop culture fans happy because this podcast, we cover a mixture of sports and entertainment and pop culture. But I mean, one thing that was heavily discussed was the Taylor Swift Travis Kelce wedding. Now, with all of that, I mean, they both get a lot of hate, and I think a lot of their haters are just jealous people who hate themselves and hate their lives. However, the one bit of criticism I found justified that they received was the fact that they got permission. They had their wedding in New York City on 4th of July weekend. They got permission to shut down public streets near their venue, which actually cost local restaurants quite a bit of money. And I thought that was a very entitled and self-centered move. I mean, obviously they're unusually famous. They need additional privacy matters. But if that's the case, then why have your wedding in a major city on a holiday weekend? If you want to be somewhere private, they could fly anywhere on the planet to have their wedding. Also, if they really, really have to have it at that venue in New York City, then why don't you pay the local business owners for, the local business owners for the money they lost that day? So I didn't like the way they handled all of that, but, what are your thoughts on everything?
It's difficult to say because, as you made the point, this is more than likely the most famous entertainment couple maybe in the world right now. And with their combined incomes, I think they could have easily chosen any location on this planet for which to have their wedding, but they wanted to do so at the world's most famous arena in the middle of New York City. And you mentioned the hate surrounding Taylor Swift. You can say whatever you want about her music, her choice in men, how ethical she's being with the money that she has made. But I think one thing that cannot be denied about this woman is she is a savvy businesswoman. What I mean by that is, having her wedding behind closed doors. We've seen rumors that the guest list is the who's who of A-list celebrities, people from entertainment, people from sports coming there for Travis Kelce. And how do you think this could be turned around for her? She could monetize it as her fifth or sixth TV special. It could go to pay-per-view rights. It could be streaming on this service. She could release this version of it. It could come out to this. She knows exactly what her audience will consume and how much they are going to be willing to spend to consume it. So if that does end up being the move, again, I think a smart business decision by her, but for the expense of locals, business owners, especially on a 4th of July weekend like that. Yes, it does seem to be a little bit of the old Marie Antoinette let them eat cake line of just a complete disconnect between someone in the stratosphere of wealth and popularity and the common New York.
Yeah. Well, I mean, also, I mean, most people, if they ask to shut down public streets, because of their wedding, they wouldn't be able to do that. But I actually think it should be unlawful for celebrities to get a free pass on doing
I
that. And
agree.
yeah, and also the amount that if they had just simply paid the businesses for lost business that day, the amount it would have cost Taylor Swift is nothing compared to what she has. It's interesting, though, what you said, though, about perhaps her wanting to keep her wedding so private is not just for the sake of her personal privacy, but because she actually wants to publicize it and monetize it. And I mean, can you imagine if there was like a Taylor Swift wedding tape on
Oh,
Netflix? I mean, that would go crazy. And maybe or a Hulu documentary about her wedding. I mean, and
you would
maybe
have
she
to
has
put
something
it
up her
in movie
sleeve.
theaters. It would do so well. And she's already done this. You look at the success of when she put out that Eras tour on streaming services. It went to theaters, it went to streaming services, and it did an insane amount of money. The way she releases her albums, kind of doing album by album, and now that she owns her own music catalog, she's doing what I believe she calls going back in the vault and re-releasing this album as Taylor's version, this song is Taylor's version, this music video as this. And again, from her audience, it keeps getting consumed. So if you're savvy in business, which I think definitely this woman is, you keep saying yourself, all right, this is what the audience wants. This is something they're going to be willing to spend on. So I'm going to capitalize on it as a businesswoman. And again, say what you will about the ethics of that, but it is a savvy business move if that's indeed what she intends to do.
Yeah, I mean, 100% about it. Also, I mean, if you're a top entertainer, you're not just a singer. You're businessman or businesswoman. I mean, for you, if it doesn't matter how well you sing, if you can't market and promote yourself and monetize yourself, you're not going to have success in that industry. So, like you said, Taylor Swift and a lot of other people are incredibly savvy on the business side of things. Also, before we get to, talking a little bit about you and your career, we have time for one more topic, either a sports topic or a pop culture topic, and I'll let you pick. So, one of the biggest stories in sports is LeBron going to the Philadelphia 76ers. Another thing they've been talking about in the pop culture world is the recent incident with Usher at his concert. I don't know, did you hear about all of that?
Yes, I did hear about all that and
And I
see
mean, do
it.
you have a preference of topic, or maybe we can briefly hit on both. So which one do you want to talk about first?
Let's go pop culture. We're on a pop culture roll. Let's keep the train rolling.
Okay, so yeah, the obviously Usher had that show, and he had invited a woman on stage and then kicked her off stage for not making out with them. I mean, that's an incredibly arrogant, entitled thing to do. To kick a woman out of a place for simply not making out with you, and it doesn't matter if you're normally someone who women throw themselves at, or you're a ultra celebrity or whatever. No one is entitled to kissing or any sex acts.
I did see one report that it was perhaps that the woman was expecting the same kind of onstage performance, we'll call it, from Chris Brown, which is a whole nother can of worms. And I'm not sure
Yeah.
why women would be going out in force still to see him given some of his accusations, but that's neither here nor there. But at least I think Usher handled the situation. He could have handled it much better than he did.
We'll get to one more quick sports topic, but what are your thoughts on LeBron going to Philadelphia? I mean, it looks like he wants to go there to win a championship because he's not getting paid very much money relative to how good he is. He's getting paid roughly $8 million, which is more than most of society makes. But for what LeBron James is accustomed to making, that is nothing.
Yeah,
What are your thoughts on LeBron to Philly?
well, it's been an exciting time living not far from Philly right now. The the world of the 215 just absolutely exploded, and fans could not be happier that, my goodness, not only have we landed Jaylen Brown in this trade, we also got LeBron James. And 2 months ago, it was looking hopeless for 76ers fans, where they were stuck with the same contracts of Joel Embiid and Paul George. And it was just like, man, this team is just never going to get better. We have to accept that this is kind of the end of the road. We need to play out these contracts, and maybe this group with Maxey and Edgecombe will start to pop a little bit more, and maybe they'll do something. But at the end of the day, this will probably end up being the same old Sixers. And now the attitude is completely reversed. My God, you look at this lineup top to bottom, it's got to be championship or bust for the next 2 years. And I saw actually a statistic today that LeBron had officially overtaken Shohei Ohtani for the fastest selling jersey for a player who has switched teams within a 48-hour period, which is insane to think about. And yeah, he's taking that veteran discount at a league minimum. This is clearly not about money for him. This is about him in what I at least believe is most likely going to be his final 2 years in the NBA. That you can call it ring chasing, you can call it whatever you want, but I am here to get a championship and go out on my terms as a champion and one of the greatest men to ever play this game.
Yeah, and I think also, one thing that people talk about with like Michael Jordan, for example, is the number of rings he's won. And so with LeBron, I mean, as far as like personal accolades and stats and total points, I mean, he's off the charts. But maybe to try to separate himself from like a guy like Jordan and a guy like Kobe Bryant, he wants to add to his total number of rings to really cement his legacy. And maybe that's the one thing he thinks he has missing is just adding another ring or two. But it'll be interesting to see. But, obviously we won't just talk about sports and pop culture the whole night because you're a pretty big deal yourself. I mean, you've done a lot in the broadcasting world. I mean, you did for any big NHL fans who like to watch the Islanders, you did some broadcasting in their system. You've done broadcasting for women's professional hockey with teams like the Boston Pride. You've also broadcasted for college teams. I mean, of all of the different things you've done, it would take all night to read your entire LinkedIn. But of all the things you've done, I mean, what has been the highlight for you?
It has to be those years with the Boston Pride, not only because of the incredible players I got to watch and call, not only on the Pride, but throughout that league, the NWHL, which became the Premier Hockey Federation, the PHF. And just to see how that all played out, and then to see women's hockey get to where it is right now, it's great to be a part of that history, even if it is the smallest chapter. And I love what they are doing. They're expanding to cities all over the place. They continue to break attendance records and just go up and up and up for women's hockey. Clearly will be inspiring generation after generation of the next great female hockey players. But at the same time, I think back on those years and it was like, man, what a time to be there, to see almost the gestation of this product and to think about, wow, this is really building towards something special. And I may not see that future that's 20,000 people in a stadium every single weekend for a women's hockey game, but man, I can feel that energy in here. And that's why I'm so proud to be with this team and be with these athletes. And the Boston Pride really did that for me, and was able to get back-to-back championships, winning seasons every time I was there. Just an incredibly tight-knit core and group of players that I will always have such fond memories of.
How did you get interested in broadcasting hockey and also specifically women's hockey? I mean, were you a big hockey fan growing up? Did you play hockey? How did you become such a big hockey guy with both the women's game and the men's game?
I was always very interested in hockey from a young age. When I could first kind of understand sports on TV and watching sports on TV, obviously very fortunate to grow up in a great sports city that is Philadelphia. And when I first started watching hockey, it was kind of the end of the Legion of Doom days with Eric Lindros and Mikkel Renberg and Mark Recchi, John LeClaire, guys like that. And the Flyers just constantly being these big bad bullies and going into the next year a continual playoff success. But my first internship out of college ended up being as a communications intern with a hockey team in upstate New York, an ECHL team who were at the time Calgary's affiliate. They've since now switched to the New Jersey Devils.
I mentioned, you've broadcasted for minor league teams in the system of NHL organizations and women's pro hockey, but is there a goal for you to someday be a play-by-play guy in the NHL? Is that something you have interest in doing on the road?
It is still a goal if I can make it happen. And another sport I've always been very interested in, and kind of starting to plant the seeds if I can to make those connections, is in the world of auto racing. It's always been something I've been very passionate in, and the lifespan is, I guess I'll call it, a little longer in terms of the age you can be to kind of first get into the sport and continue to call the sport. So that's something I would love to do in the future, make it to kind of the high end level of motorsports if I'm able to. If the hockey world may be a bit of a shut door, then another one is certainly open to me, I think, if I put in that work.
Do you have any other, further advice for any young aspiring broadcasters if they want to be the next Sam Fryman? How can they do it?
Oh man, it takes a whole lot. And I think, again, the key I would say is, like you mentioned, do things that others won't do. If a call comes in to do this in addition to the game, say, yes, that's going to be me. If they talk about, does this work with your schedule? Some of these things may happen, some of those things may happen. You be the yes person. You say, this is going to be me. Nothing is going to stop me from being dedicated to this craft, to this team, whatever that pursuit may be. And I wouldn't say do it to overexert yourself. Still know your limits, of course. Take care of your mental health. Don't let it be crushing to you. But at the same time, do what you would do to a level that would make others quit, and still pursue that level further.
Before we wrap things up, for anyone listening who wants to unfollow me on social media and they need a new person to follow, where can people keep up with you on social media?
Sure, they can follow me, sfryman20 on Twitter. It's mostly a lot of sports and hockey takes throughout the year. Frymaster93 on Instagram, if you're so inclined. Getting a little less on the social media posting because my day-to-day job now actually involves social media posting for a sportsbook and casino chain. But definitely, if you want to give a follow there, you can check me out.
Absolutely. And everyone definitely check out his social media handles for, broadcasting content and everything else he's involved in. But, once again, everyone, that was our guest, Sam Fryman. You've been listening to the Leverett Ball Show.